This episode is sponsored by Magic Mind and Wix Studio.
When is the last time you listened to a podcast about web development, web design, and small business and didn't fall asleep? Yes, we cover web development, web design, and small business, but like actual human beings with personalities. If you're a beginner, we're not going to talk over your head. It's more like asking your buddy for help. We have guests, we have fun, and let me tell you, these two can get off on a tangent. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HTML All the Things Podcast. This is Matt Lawrence and Mike Curran.
That's right, everybody. We are back, and this is the HTML All the Things Podcast. Bit of a working title. We might stick with this, we might not. So the current title is, Should Our AI Data Be in the Cloud? On-Device AI versus Cloud-Based AI. So the second part of the title is really sort of the meat and potatoes of the episode, which is sort of the fight, the argument, the debate, whatever you want to call it, about where our AI should be, where our data, meaning our queries and our memories, because ChatGPT has a memory about what you do with it. You know, where are those memories, data, your profile, whatever, where is it all stored and why is it stored there, those type of things. So we're going to talk a lot about really sort of the UX, but we're going to get into it. I'm not just talking at like a really high level. We're going to get into this thing. We're going to talk about cloud-based AI. We're going to get into on-device. We're even going to touch on, you know, the benefits of cloud, the benefits of on-device, but we're even going to touch on, you know, the hardware of, you know, what makes on-device AI work, because it's a lot of computing power. And we're going to talk about that in the beginning of the episode. We're going to talk about the software layer and some of the things that are happening there. We're also even going to talk about the model optimization techniques, because, you know, it's AI. And the big question really is, you know, hey, like ChatGPT and Copilot and all these other ones, they're doing a lot of stuff. They're talking about a lot of things. Like I'm talking to it about tech. But then when I go to record my gaming podcast, I'm talking to it about gaming, and it doesn't skip a beat. It doesn't go, hang on, I must switch to gaming mode. So think about all the topics and all the different things that people are asking it, including complex things like how many contractors are trying to figure out roof peaks and, you know, whatever else. Scientists are asking it questions. So these things are versatile. How are we supposed to get this running on a device? And if you're confused what that means, like, what do you mean on device? Like, I'm on my device, I'm typing to it. We're going to cover that in this episode. So if this sounds interesting to you and you want to support the show, you can go and check us out on that Patreon, leave a review or rating on your podcast app, join us in our Discord server, or share this with your friends. So let's just jump in here. I have an introduction written up here just to sort of dip our toes, if you will, into this debate, into what on-device and what cloud AI is. So on-device versus in-cloud is a huge debate these days because of privacy, because people are thinking, hey, hang on, you know, people are starting to understand. They're almost starting to wake up and be like, hang on a second, my internet was out the other day and XYZ didn't work on my device. Why is that? Oh, it's because it's in the cloud. What's that? Hey, why is my information being sent across the planet or sent across the country or sent across the state or the province or wherever to some data center somewhere, to some server somewhere, being processed and then sent back to me? Like, why can't my phone, which, you know, seems powerful, why can't my phone, why can't my computer, why can't my tablet run these things? And I just mentioned there, you know, an outage, it sucks. You know, this argument takes a whole bunch of different forms, because this argument is not just about AI. So on device versus in cloud, I didn't mention really AI too much yet, because let's take video games, a different context. Gamers will argue that single player games should not rely on an internet connection. It's referred commonly to it as always online. And it's seen as another point of failure. You know, kind of infamously, my internet went down for quite a while. There was some sort of fiber cut or something. I thought, okay, you know, it's the evening. I want to do some gaming. I'm going to play an Xbox 360 game on my Xbox Series X through backwards compatibility, emulation, however they do it. Go to do it, and it works for like 16 minutes, and it cuts me out, and it goes, oh yeah, you know, like we couldn't, you know, call back the server effectively, with a more consumer-friendly message than that. And it's like, hang on, why is this online? This is an old 360 game that I could have bought on disc, you know, years and years and years ago. Why does this have to be online? And then also you have to think about this. As a game gets more and more sort of, you know, aged, gets the patina going, people leave. People are not using that server as much. And then these game companies go, well, there's not many people playing, I'm going to close it. Some of these games are single player. They're not accessible because the menu won't open, or the game itself won't run in some way because it requires an internet connection. And then all these projects pop up that are like trying to restore these servers via like grabbing the cache that people have, like PlayStation Home. There's a PlayStation Home project where they have PlayStation Home running now. They're gathering people's cache from their old consoles to like reconstruct PlayStation Home. This is chaos. And some of this stuff, like PlayStation Home is an online experience. I fully understand that. And we're going to get into why, being online makes a lot of sense in a lot of cases. However, being offline is good if the experience can be offline. So this debate, I've like brought it into video games, but this debate goes into many other areas, but I'm going to zoom in on AI now to stop rambling, because let's think about it in sort of an AI way, if you will. AI is a big thing. It's a big revolution. It's whatever, and you could say, I ignore it. I don't care about it. Fantastic. You do that. But here's the thing is AI is really, really everywhere. And we've seen this before with Web3, and Web3 is still popular, obviously, but it's not as like in the zeitgeist being absolutely plastered on our TVs, go buy this crypto, go buy that crypto, invest in crypto, this, that, this, that, this, that. AI is a little bit different, in my opinion, because AI is not a money thing. People got mad at crypto because it went down. If crypto had never gone down in monetary value, meaning literally the equivalent value of your cryptocurrency to US dollars, if that had never happened, I don't think people would be that bad at it. There's definitely scams and stuff that happened in the crypto space that people are going to be upset about, but there's scams everywhere. With AI, you're not investing in it, right? You're not taking AI unless you're like an investor in some sort of company. You're not, buying like a piece of AI and hoping the value goes up. So AI really is just a new tool. And I think it's going to shape how we use computers moving forward. If you decide to ignore it, you decide to ignore it, and you might fall behind in terms of productivity. And, that's your prerogative if you want to do that. And maybe I'm wrong. However, there's big companies now, like Microsoft is in on this. The controversial, Windows Recall was already a product on top of the new Copilot. Tools are being developed at an alarming rate, right? And Recall is whatever, kiboshed, it's being rethought, whatever's going to happen to it. The point of the matter is they're computers now, like Microsoft's computers. Like there's certain ones being branded as Copilot plus PCs. This is like a revolution, like the AI is coming. It's like literally in all of our apps. It's everywhere. It's in Canva. It's everywhere. So these things are going to shape a lot of the future. And there's two camps in this future. There's cloud-based AI and there's also on-device AI. So cloud-based AI, and I may refer to this as cloud AI just to make it simpler, is AI that does its query processing, meaning you type in something, what time is it, whatever. And instead of it doing it on the device, it goes up into the cloud. So it goes to a server somewhere across the country, across the globe, across the state, wherever that server is, wherever that data center is, because most of these servers live in data centers. It does the processing, it checks what time it is, and then it sends you a response back, and then your device renders it on the screen in some way or reads it out to you verbally. That's what that is. It sends the response out and it comes back. On device, it doesn't need to send anything out. So it does not use the cloud for its processing. The processing is all done on the device itself. So you ask it what time, it'll do, it'll use its own intelligence. Maybe it'll, reach out to the phone's clock or something like that. It'll figure out what time it is, and then it will tell you. And it just sounds like, it's like, hey, the cloud-based AI, people just, typed in what time it is and they got their answer. And on device, people typed in what time it is or like, what time is it? And they got their answer. So what is the point and what is the debate here? And we're going to get like really into the weeds on this.
AI is in such a weird spot right now in the industry because you're right, like it's everywhere, but it's also being crammed into things that people are just not using. It's also being crammed into things that don't make any sense. It's also being used poorly in different places. And I think a lot of people, the general public especially, is becoming a little bit hesitant or losing trust in it because they try this random half-baked AI feature. It doesn't work the way that they think it should work. And then they just like, oh, AI is garbage. Like I've had this conversation with a bunch of regular people, like my friends in my life, and they're telling me that like, hey, AI is not a revolution. AI is nothing because I tried this one feature on my phone and it did a really bad job. And like, we've seen that across the board, really, with every possible implementation of AI, generative AI in random places, and like image manipulation AI in random places, and like post-creation AI and post-review. Like, there's just like so many different use cases for it that people are starting to get exhausted by it. And I think that's going to have a negative effect in general on AI because of that first impression aspect, because people are going to just assume that it's bad after they use it once and don't get what they want from it. Not to say that, like, for us as developers, because this is like a very developer-centric podcast, developer-centric episode, it's the exact opposite. Like when you talk to a developer that's used AI, they kind of understand the limitations. They understand where they can put it in, where they can use it, and they understand how the benefit. A lot of them, it's in their workflow. For me as well, like it's in my workflow. Yesterday I had to use a code pen. Like I used to do code pens all the time. But the reality is CodePen doesn't have any sort of built-in AI stuff. So I didn't have any autocomplete. And I noticed myself like wanting that autocomplete. It's weird. It's a weird, like, I know what I needed to write. Like I didn't need to look anything up. I just need to write some basic JavaScript stuff. But I was like, like my IDE would have written this like 7 times faster, even though it was like a simple thing. And I missed it. And like, so I'm starting to get reliant on it and I'm starting to understand it, but it's also starting to become in the background of everything for me. Like you said, it's becoming part of the workflow and it's becoming something that's just a tool. And it's no longer like this like crazy new AI fangled thing. It very quickly switched to like a commodity that I just rely upon and move on with my life. And so like, this is where this debate kind of comes into me, is like this AI on premises, AI cloud or on device. It's going to become very important because there's a lot of AI models that are being developed to be specifically on device, right? Like you're talking about the phone, like Samsung is using something for on-device AI. Like you said, Microsoft Copilot PCs have on-device AI, and they're pretty limited, but they do certain things pretty well. And that's only going to get faster and better to the point where I'm assuming at some point we're going to have like GPT-4 level on-device AI in certain things. It's almost like, do we need the big servers? This is where I'm excited to have this conversation, is like a lot of very specific AI related things. I think on device will be viable within like 5 to 10 years.
That's going to be a big part of the discussion, really, is that, AI is big. Like we've done the introduction now for 10-ish minutes. And like, it's the introduction to this episode before we jumped into the weeds. AI is a big topic. It covers a lot of different things. And because of that, it's hard to imagine it working just on your personal device, just on your phone, just on a little computer, which is your phone, in your pocket. The vibe it gives is, oh, this is going to be cut off, cut down, trimmed down. It's going to be a light version. It's going to be like almost like a demo. It's going to suck, right? It's not going to be good. And then, AI, which is largely right now in its infancy, really kind of like could fall off a little bit, where people start going, you know what, like, this is the secure version of AI, because security is a big part of being on device. I want to use the secure version. This sucks. And they leave. They don't even consider the fact that they've sort of made their device light or made their AI like a light experience. Or maybe that isn't the case. And like, we're going to jump into that right now. And I want to start with the benefits of on-device AI. So we've already touched on this, but no reliance on our internet connection. So obviously, if you need to send the query out to a data center somewhere and then have it be processed and have it be looked at and then have the response sent back to you, you're going to need good internet connection. Now, most homes in general, usually like sort of, I'm going to call it the landline, which is going to date myself, but people who are on like a wired connection, right, at least to the house and then maybe to Wi-Fi or something, usually those connections are pretty stable. There's exceptions to every single rule, of course. 100%, there's going to be tons of exceptions. Even just in my local area, there's going to be tons of exceptions. And in general, that's been figured out. But a lot of this AI stuff is done on mobile devices, done on tablets, done on phones, things like that. Problem is, data connection's still pretty spotty. In my area, rural areas, it's pretty spotty. I'm not an infrastructure guy, but it seems like they've placed, okay, this one tower can do 100 square kilometers, and we'll put this other tower not 100 kilometers away, we're going to do 102. To sort of like save money, right? So it's gonna be like a 2-kilometer area where it's like pretty spotty, right? Like it's not great. Also, if you're in a large building that has like a lot of concrete, yada, yada, whatever, and the 5G especially is having trouble penetrating that building, or you're like in a basement and you're having, and the signal is, not doing great, that's a problem. And sometimes this is something that you can't control. Let's say your building's fine, but then a building next door gets built up and literally blocks the connection from your house, like to your place. Line of sight, you're in line of sight of the tower. All of a sudden this big tower goes up and now it's blocking, you're not getting as well of a signal, as good of a signal. That's very possible. So you can't always control this thing. And also, again, those holes in the standard coverage. So let's say you look online and you looked at your carrier and your carrier says, this is our coverage area. They give you a map. You look at it and you go, well, they say I got 5G here. I'm in that area. I got a 5G phone. I normally get 5G connection, and I got a 4G connection with like 2 megabytes down and like really bad latency, right? And that leads to my next point, which is latency, which is the ping, if you will. What it is, you may have a super fast connection. Like you may have 100 meg down, 200 meg up, whatever. You may have that. But the latency is important. Latency is, let's say, for example, you hit the letter A on your keyboard and it needs to be, a letter A is going to appear somehow in the data center. It might take, that's the latency. How much time is it going to take? It might take 100 milliseconds. Doesn't sound that slow, but when you're typing fast, when you're sitting there waiting, maybe you're like in a rush and you need the answer, latency sucks. And oftentimes, latency is pretty bad on mobile devices. Now, 5G has, largely remedied this. Even good LTE has largely remedied this. It's not perfect. It's still wireless. It's not cabling, right, to the house. It's not cabling. But again, there's a lot of different environmental factors that can affect your latency, including if the actual tower, if the actual signal isn't that great. And this will delay your queries. This will delay the query being sent out. This will delay the response coming back to you. And that's a delay. This is make or break time for AI. If people have bad experiences, whether it's people not getting answers that they like Mike said, or if they're having man, I'm getting the answers I like, but this is just unbearably slow. I remember the beginnings of Copilot, and it's still early days of Copilot, but the real early days of Copilot, sometimes it'd be super fast, and other times it was just unbelievably slow. You would tell it to do something, and it would type out each thing. And then sometimes it'd be an app bug, so a little bit of an on-device issue, where you would put the app to sleep, bring it back, and then it would type really fast. Sometimes it would be the actual network, and it's oh my God, this is taking forever to get anything. That's a bad experience. And I'm willing to wait for the response. How many people, even maybe you, the listener, are you willing to wait? Maybe not. And then you may not return, and that's not good. Speed. So we've already talked about speed a little bit, but I'm going to, double down a little bit here. Latency is something I already mentioned, right? Plays a big part, the time between you and the server, whatever. However, here's the thing is that even with a 5G plus connection with full bars, all 5 bars or whatever it is, you are sometimes sending data across the country. Even with great ping, great latency, you're still sending it across the country. And this takes time. So on device means that your device is going to immediately start working on it. Immediately. Whereas you send it to a server, well, it's going to take a while. Maybe the actual server is going to take a while because other people are also calling on that server. Maybe there's a bit of network congestion, right? So even if your latency is great, your ping's amazing, your speed's amazing, this is a problem. It's a speed problem, right? So now we just tallied up two things. We have a reliance on an internet connection, which could be spotty, or maybe you don't have any data at all. The speed is going to be spotty based upon that connection, or even just the fact that you're sending it across the country. And we haven't even touched on the big argument here of what a lot of people argue for is on-device AI gives you a bit of privacy. And when I say a bit, it's because some people will claim they're sending logs or whatever. I'm not going to get into all that. But privacy, assuming it is truly private, meaning the actual device is not calling home and being hey, Matt asked me what time it was, just for the sake of doing that. If you are sending data out into the cloud at any point, there's a risk of it being exposed. You're sending it out to the cloud. There's a reason why when people ask for passwords and be yo, we need to share some passwords, we'll usually share it with a sharing program like a password manager that has a sharing feature built in. There's a reason why you generally don't do it via email, because you're worried about it going into the ether. Not only is it sitting on someone else's device, if they're using POP, they're downloading all the messages. Now those messages are in plain text on their phone, on their device, potentially. You have no idea what the other side is like. But you also don't know what's going to happen in between. Is someone going to intercept that traffic? Is it not quite encrypted good enough? And then someone's going to take it and be oh, there's the password, whoop, and then put the password. Is that what's going to happen? It's very possible. It's entirely possible. So you really are putting your data at risk of being exposed. Now, I'm not saying to be scared. Like, a lot of the stuff we use is, always connected and things like that. But in this context, is a better way. When the processing is done on the device and your data is truly not going to the cloud, then the cloud doesn't need to know about your data, right? You can put your stuff in there, ask personal questions. Like, let's say it's not even nefarious. Like, let's say you're sick in some way and you start asking your AI that. You think you're being, paranoid about it. Maybe it's just like a headache, but you kind of worry because it feels different or something. And so you start realistically talking to an AI about it and start asking like a little bit of personal questions. It's not illegal, but do you really want those queries to be, said, hey, Matt Lawrence said this, and this about his head, or other people are going to be like, oh my God, Matt Lawrence is sick. What if it's embarrassing? Like, what if it's about like a reproductive organ or something like that? And you start asking questions. Now, I will say you probably shouldn't get medical advice from the internet. You should go to a doctor. But many people are still going to ask an AI or ask the internet before they go to a doctor. And again, you don't want that data attached to you just because it could be embarrassing. There's a reason why when you're in the doctor's room, you're not having the doctor's appointment in the waiting room. You're having it in like a personal room, I would hope, right? There's a reason why you're doing that. And so privacy is better when the device is just on the AI itself.
So this one is very tough as well because there's so many benefits of on-device AI, and it's also the weakest part of AI right now, from what I'm seeing at least. I've seen my friend, he has a 4090, which is a like top tier graphics card, and he was creating some on-device AI stuff. Like he was actually like training some very specific models for very specific things. But even after doing it for like 6 months, 7 months, he kind of gave me access to it to try it out. And I just don't see a use case for it in terms of the limitations of what it can do. And it took him, I believe, 3 days to train a very small model. And then like something screwed up. He did it again, another 3 days. And that's like, it's 14090, sure. Like it is what it is. When you train the model, it can take a little bit less to run it. The servers that are needed for like training ChatGPT is way more than it is for like running a simple query for ChatGPT, right? Like against the actual trained model. The problem is like you just need so much power to train it, running it a little bit less, but still you can't run like a ChatGPT on your device that's similar in power to like the 4.0 model or even the ChatGPT model. It still requires too much. So right now, as of right now, there isn't much for me personally that I see useful on-device AI. Yes, there's the gimmicky, like create image stuff, edit an image, all that. That's great. That's running on my phone, a lot of it. That's cool. But it's not something I use on a daily basis or even on a weekly or a monthly basis. It's very sparingly used. My excitement comes from the future of this because I think that we're investing heavily into it. What I'm hoping is that right now it's hype, like the ChatGPT Copilot stuff, the on-device AI, like every new phone processor is coming with an NPU, which is a processor dedicated just for AI. All that stuff right now is hype. And it's doing almost nothing, like realistically. Like all this stuff is just marketing gimmicks. My hope is that they continue on the path, though. My worry is that because it's all marketing gimmicks and people will push back on it, they're going to abandon it in the next generation or the generation after that, and then we won't see on-device AI. That's my worry. I'm really hoping that people will, like the companies will kind of suffer through the initial onslaught of people saying that it sucks and continue to iterate on it to the point where it is doing on-device like Google Assistant level stuff. That would be sick. Like if you can ask it something and it has a knowledge base that doesn't have to go to the internet and is able to answer you questions and is able to talk to you on device in real time pretty much because it's not having to do that back and forth communication that Matt was talking about, the latency. That's where I want AI to go personally, right? I think we can get there if we continue to optimize, if we continue to make the models more efficient, better, but everything will fall apart if the companies see what's happening out there, what people are saying about their current on-device AI stuff and decide to pivot, which is very possible, right? So we're in a very interesting place with on-device AI. It's either going to be the future or it's not going to exist.
It's honestly a really good point. Like, I know we said it's make or break time for AI, and I really do think that AI is going to stick around. So when I say that, I'm almost, I guess, really thinking that it's make or break time for, it's not a matter of if AI is going to be around in the future. It's a matter of what type. Is there going to be hybrid on device and cloud? Is there going to be just on device? Is there going to be just cloud? What's going to be there? And so I agree with you, Mike. Like, I think that on device AI, and we're going to get into NPUs and all that stuff near the end of the show, because I know some people that listen to this don't care about hardware. So we're going to, again, do that near the end. But it's a very serious question of, okay, man, this, Siri Plus, let's just say, sucks. And it's for my privacy, but like I'm just gonna go and type a text message instead of like actually using it. Like a classic one is, and I don't even know if this is on device or not, but when I upgraded my phone personally from Google Assistant to Gemini, I asked it, I was like, yo, like tell me what song's playing right now. It's like, oh, I can't do that. In order to do that, you got to use something like Google Assistant. It's like, so you use, you, but back 2 years? Like, why did I turn this on? Or then I'll say like, hey, turn the light on, turn the light off, whatever. And it'll like invoke Assistant to do it. And whereas I kind of dig that, it's like, okay, it knows what to look for. And then it does it. Again, I don't know if this is on device or not, but I dig that it, knew to invoke Assistant. It's like, why can't you invoke Assistant for some other things? Like, why can't you name the tune in the area? So that feature's gone of my phone. I can never tell it to do that unless I go back to using Google Assistant and kibosh Gemini, unless they update it, right? I'm at wit's end there. Like, I'm not really that big into music. If you're a music person, that might be make or break. Like, you might be like, you just like music all the time. You always have it on. You hear phones in, whatever. You hear something on the radio, hear something in the mall, whatever. You're like, yo, what is that? A quick check of your phone and you can't do it anymore. Oh, I guess you're not using Gemini anymore, right? Or you're now going to switch to like a third-party app, Shazam or whatever is available. And like Google's lost you. Like, you may never return to Gemini. And so there is like a lot of little make or break things, of which a big one is, like Mike said, on device AI is that make or break, is a make or break time.
And like what you're mentioning right now is mostly on device, like a fault of on device AI and Gemini is what you're saying. And it's, in my opinion, a massive miscalculation by Google, because that first experience of Gemini almost guaranteed is going to be bad, because people are going to try to do exactly what they were going to do with Google Assistant. And it can't do probably like 50 or 60% of what Google Assistant can do. Now, it can do more in certain areas, obviously, like it can answer your questions in different ways and stuff like that. Great. But people don't know about that. And so like they're going to at least expect it to do what Google Assistant could do. And it can't. And like you're just throwing that goodwill away for no reason other than to be first to market, or they're not even first to market, like just to be on the market as an AI. And like my hot take is that Google is making so many dumb mistakes lately. And they're being way too reactive. They're being way too short-sighted that I don't see the current leadership there. I think there's going to be a renaissance where Google is going to go down pretty heavily. Like, I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think there's going to be like a closure of Google or like a bankruptcy, but I think that there's going to be a significant impact to their business. And we're going to see a different Google coming up in the next 5 to 10 years, because they can't continue this way. They've made way too many missteps. The early startup phase is over, that all the goodwill that they've built up is slowly being whittled away. It's eventually going to get to the point where people are going to get sick and tired of their shit, and they're going to switch to something else. And like Microsoft is there, and for searching, DuckDuckGo is there. Like, there's so many different options that are propping up now that there's going to be a way for people to disconnect from Google and go to something different, and that's going to hurt their bottom line.
I mean, when I first used Gemini, like, just to be blunt, I was pissed off. Can't do this, can't do that, try to talk to it. It like gave me just bogus answers. And like, that's a bad first impression. And so when I was shopping around for another AI, because, I like Copilot, but Copilot's more of a Copilot for Windows. I wanted something that was a bit more conversational. I was like, oh, maybe Google is it. Because Google has like a bundle where you can purchase, a bunch of space, like a bunch of storage, things like 2 terabytes of storage, and you get Gemini Pro or Advanced or whatever the heck it's called. And I was like, maybe this is the one. Like, I'll put that into my budget. I'll pay for a bunch of space. I'll move a bunch of stuff. Like, I already have a bunch of pictures and stuff, and I'll, raise it. So I'll store lossless photos on there and stuff like that. And I'll, use a little bit more Google infrastructure. And I already have Android, so it makes sense. And then my first impression with Gemini, I'm like, why the hell would I do that? And then I just like literally stopped shopping for a few weeks, talked to Mike about ChatGPT, and now I'm a premium ChatGPT, purchaser, customer, whatever you want to say. When we're saying make or break, like make or break for Google, like it broke me. I won't say I'll never come back. Like, I used to be notoriously difficult, actually. I used to really rip into No Man's Sky, which is a video game, if you don't know. When it first came out, I used to rip right into it. Now I love it. And I was always kind of I'm never going to play that. What a piece of garbage. But now I love it. So, like, I'll never say never, but you're going to have to do something pretty special. You can't be like, hey, we now are on par with ChatGPT. Be like, cool, stay over there because you've made me angry at this point. Why would I switch to you, right? There has to be a reason. You got to be doing something crazily good that I'm going to actually use for me to actually come over there. Now, speaking of segues, which this wasn't a segue at all, I want to take a moment here and talk about my Magic Mind experience. So I've been go, like Mike knows it. I've been running around, bunch of stuff happening in my personal life, bunch of stuff happening professionally, like just chaos, right? Nothing like super bad or anything, just really chaotic, running around, doing stuff, buying tickets, driving around, going to weddings. It's been really crazy. End of summer, I assume, right? Just sort of the big rush, end of summer stuff. And so I'm running around. I need energy, right? I need to be doing this. But the thing is I'm a notorious overpacker. Is a major problem. I overpack like it's ridiculous. Like I'll bring like a week's worth of clothes for 2 days. It's crazy. And so I don't have a lot of room in my suitcase for add-ons. And so normally, I wouldn't be packing coffee, which is the thing that I use for energy in the morning a lot of the time. I wouldn't be bringing that. Like I'm not going to bring coffee. I'll just go out and buy it, or maybe it'll be in the hotel room or whatever. But thankfully, actually, my Magic Mind does come along with me, but I started using it a little bit differently. So this is just me experimenting. I wasn't not told to do this or anything like that. I thought, okay, you know what? Like I'm gone for 2 or 3 days. I'm going to bring 2 or 3 bottles. They're little shots of it, right? They're pretty small. They're compact. They're easy to pack. But what I'm going to do is because I'm, a notorious overpacker, I'm worried about, oh my God, I'm going to run out of resources. I'm going to run out of clothes. I'm going to run out of this. I'm not going to drink my Magic Mind every morning. And I'm actually just going to actually drink it when I feel like it, when I feel like I need it. And this ended up being, approximately every other day. And what I liked about it was I didn't experience, at least me personally, any withdrawal effects. I didn't have any, crashes. I didn't have headaches. I wasn't sort of like, oh my God, I need a coffee. Or in this case, I need a Magic Mind. I didn't have that, right? And when I did the Magic Mind on an approximately every other day basis, it was the same effect every time. I didn't get a sudden rush like, oh, I'm back, kind of thing. It wasn't like that. It was just sort of like, tonight I'm a little bit tired. It's the early evening, but I got to stay out all evening. I'm going to take a Magic Mind right now to keep myself awake and help me through it without being jittery, without being all like, fired up, worried, sweaty. I'm not going to crash or anything like that. I can, guarantee that from my experience with it. And so that's what I started doing. And that's what I do now, is especially now in this craziness, is I've just started taking Magic Mind when I think I need it. I'm going out tonight. I better do this. Oh, I'm going to a wedding. I want to be alert. I want to be there. Or I want to be in the moment, but I do not want to be jittery and anxious and freaking out. So I'm going to take a Magic Mind before I go, and I'm going to feel great. And that's just the reality. And I know that I can rely on Magic Mind in the moment, but also on the daily if I so choose, which is great. And if you yourself would like to try Magic Mind, we have a 20% off offer. So 20% off for one-time purchases and subscriptions. You use our link and our code, and it's real easy, magicmind.com/HTMLpod20. And the code is very similar, just HTMLpod20. So again, at magicmind.com/HTMLpod20, code HTMLpod20. That will be in the show description, as well as in the show notes, if you so care to do that, because I think you should, because I've been really enjoying my experience with Magic Mind, whether I take it daily, when I feel like it, in the evenings to avoid a crash, whatever. I've been experimenting, and every experiment I've done so far, and again, I was not asked to do this, I really have honestly been enjoying my time with it. So I think we're going to now talk about, because we've already touched on some of this, we're going to talk about the benefits of cloud AI. I got a bunch of stuff in this list. We're going to kind of do a deep dive here. And again, this is cloud AI. This is not on-device AI. And we're going to talk a lot about on-device AI this episode, but I potentially have a weird take on it. And I was going to share it right then. I'm going to answer the question at the end. So let's dive into the first benefit that I have here, which is access to more computing power. So Mike said this, right? Where it feels like a demo, like it feels like a demo or like a lesser experience, an AI light when you're on device. But in the cloud, you have access to a lot of computing power. Realistically, it's virtually limitless in the context of the queries and responses that most people are giving, right? It's way more than what, like if I say, what time is it? That server is not even going to hiccup. It doesn't care. And it can call on other servers to like help it out and stuff like that. And it's not even going to do that. It's just going to spit out the answer. And a lot of people's queries are not really all that complex. Another benefit is right beside the more computing power is you don't have to do the updates. So let's think about it. I have an iPhone 11 in my hand. This is before AI, neural engines, and all that stuff. So I have an iPhone 11 in my hand. This device here, if I want the best AI features and yada, 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 I want the best performance and whatever, I'm going to have to get a new iPhone if I run on-device AI, to be clear. However, if all the computing or the majority of the computing is done in the cloud, this iPhone 11 can access ChatGPT just like any other AI. The actual data center where the servers are housed are doing frequent updates. They're putting new servers in. They're putting more RAM in there. They're doing hardware maintenance. They're repairing things that are broken. And this is all done to keep up with their computational load and to keep up with new features. So now, if I do use an AI that is, in the cloud, if I use a cloud AI, I don't need to upgrade this iPhone 11. It's got great battery life. I use it for messaging and emails. Like, it's my work phone. So I don't need to upgrade this now. And I use ChatGPT on it, and I do. So great, right? That saves me money. And what all this means at the end of the day here is that cloud AI is very scalable. It's up to the data center to scale up. If they start getting 100,000 new customers and their computational load is getting really, really, really rough, their servers are struggling, it's up to them to add more servers or upgrade those servers. It's up to them to do it. And like I said, if I just ask a simple query like, what time is it? It'll go to the cloud, ask it, and it won't even like skip a beat. But if I ask it a super crazy math question or ask it something, super, super advanced, that one server can call upon other servers. Hey, I need help doing this. I need help doing this, whatever. And there's there's queues and there's load balancing and stuff like that, which can add to that delay, right? And that's why sometimes the responses are slow, but it's scalable. Like AI is able to go from not even hiccuping to, hey, I need help, within its own self. I need help. I need help. This is a big math problem. I need help. Other servers can come in, they do it, and boom. And again, it's also scalable just logistically because large companies like Google, Cloud, OpenAI, things like that, they'll add cloud servers, add data centers as needed because they want that subscription money. Another benefit here of cloud AI are updates. So we already talked about hardware updates where the data centers are handling all that stuff, where they're putting in new servers, new RAM, doing the fixes, fixing the power supplies, whatever the heck they do, right? Well, they're also going to handle software updates to new AI models. So yeah, there's a ChatGPT app, and that ChatGPT app is going to be updated, assuredly. But the ChatGPT app is doing very little, right? It's accepting the keyboard input. Maybe it's accepting a file, maybe some voice input here and there. And even some of that is offloaded to the phone where it's being done on the keyboard, right? Or it's like voice to text. So your software updates are pretty low key. Whereas the software updates are being done all the time in the data center, right? They're adding new AI models. They're applying interim updates to find problems. They're monitoring that fixes were applied properly and that they actually are fixing what they're saying. They're making sure that they're still working. If there is an update and something goes wrong, you don't have to go in and mess with the cache of your app or uninstall your app and stuff like that. They do it. They go in and they go, oh, shoot, this isn't working. They go and they fix it, right? They're on it. So they're doing updates all the time. You log in one day, it's like, whoa, I was on ChatGPT 3, now I'm on 4. Whoa, now I'm on 4.0. What did you do? Open the app. Maybe you did a couple megabyte update on your side just to add the little UI element that allows you to select 4.0. It's like your side of the pie here, your on-device part is so little. With cloud AI, a lot of it is in the cloud, and you benefit from those software and hardware updates. And this is a big one. And this is really going to shape my opinion, which again, I'll share at the end, which is you're going to have just access to just more data, like just a lot of data. So I grew up in the 90s, and if you did too, you've seen our devices grow from simple, unconnected experiences to ones that almost always need it and even need it unnecessarily, like I said, with single player games. And that's because there's only so much that you can do locally. Now, some will argue well, people want to collect your data. There's obviously going to be other reasons to being connected, right? People taking data, people doing this and that. Okay, totally get that. But a lot of it is because you're accessing really the Library of Alexandria of humankind right now, right? A lot of information is up on the cloud. People are blogging, they're writing stuff, they're making videos or tutorials. A new software gets released, the community goes nuts. They go in, they start making YouTube videos and stuff like that. That's a wealth of knowledge, right? And that knowledge is being put online. It is not being done locally. You're not, downloading every YouTube video for Webflow or for React or whatever, right? Let's say your smartphone, let's say you lose data for some reason. You're in a rural area, you got no data. Well, what can you do? And I'm just going to list a few things. There's a lot more you could do, but you could take photos, of which there's a little bit of on-device AI with a lot of photos now, where it'll fix things up. But you may struggle to tag where the photo was taken, dependent, and this is device dependent, whether it needs, just true GPS to the satellite or whether it needs data. Like, you might struggle with that. You can play some local games, meaning they're single player games and they don't require the cloud, but these are kind of rare these days. Like, you're not going to be out there playing Clash of Clans because Clash of Clans requires the internet. It's a multiplayer game. You can call, you can text, but you're going to lose a lot of key things. You're going to lose your data messaging like WhatsApp. You're going to lose all your social media, Threads, X, Facebook. The list goes on. You're going to lose GPS for nav. And again, this is device dependent. Some devices can handle it better than others, but in general, you're going to lose GPS for nav. You may lose GPS for photo tagging. Again, also device dependent. And you may lose your voice assistant. This is also device dependent and app dependent and all that, but you may lose your voice assistant. I know for sure that a lot of the Google Home products or Google Nest products, whatever they want to call them, the Nest Minis and all those things, like the smart speakers, internet goes out, they ain't answering you. You want to shut the light off? Well, you guess you're going over there and flipping the switch because they don't know what the heck you're saying. All they'll respond is with, there's no internet connection. Check your internet connection and try again in a few seconds. Like, they're completely incapable of running things without like the cloud, which sucks, right? So your smartphone experience, like, even if you're like, I'm going to go on device, everything as much as I can. I'm going to go download apps that are like run on device. And then short of that, like initial download, I'm not going to use data. You're pretty limited, man. Like, you're not going to be able to use Messenger, WhatsApp, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's think about like just the access to data that it gives us. When you plug in to the internet, you're getting access to just this wealth of knowledge, like I said. And what does this give us? Like, let's just take a second to think about it. Well, you're not going to know about the news. Something happens across the world. Someone writes a blog post, they post it. You're not connected to the data, so you don't know about that. So you're going to get a bunch of news. You're going to get a bunch of context. Even local news, like even if it's like local just to your friend group. If your friend's out in Japan or they're on vacation somewhere, wherever, and they're posting Snapchats and stuff, you ain't getting those. You don't know where the heck your friend's at. You're not checking those Snap Map because you don't have data, right? That wealth of data, that wealth of knowledge is gone. Devs, this one's for you. I've got 30 seconds to tell you about Wix Studio, the web platform for agencies and enterprises. So here are a few things you can do in 30 seconds or less on Studio. Integrate, extend, and write custom scripts in a VS Code-based IDE. Leverage zero setup dev, test, and production environments. Ship faster with an AI code assistant. And work with Wix headless APIs on any tech stack. Time's up, but the list keeps going. Step into Wix Studio and see for yourself. Link in the show description and in the show notes. The second thing is social media is gone. Now, I know some people, I don't like social media. Yeah, fantastic. But a lot of people don't care about, sort of the zeitgeist that is social media. A lot of people use it to just straight up connect easily with friends, family, and strangers here and there if they're on like TikTok or just swiping through their For You feed, right? It's easy to do that with data. You take the data away, well, I mean, hopefully TikTok downloaded, I think it like pre-caches like 20 videos or something. I think you could set it. But like, is that what you really want to rely on? And then you only have those 20, those 50, whatever it is. And you'll never know, like if someone posts about the news of like, hey, there was a car crash in your local town and there's a TikTok about it, and you'll never know about it because you're not connected. Like, human data is in the cloud now. Like, that's where a lot of the data is. Yes, you can go get a newspaper. Who's going to do that? I'm not. I'm not going to get no newspaper. I'm not getting no newspaper. I'm not reading the newspaper. Like, I'm getting my news. I'm getting my stuff by being plugged in. And so think about this now in the like context of AI, AI being an intelligence of sorts, it can utilize this data to enhance its queries. So let's just throw an example out there. This is a little bit of a ridiculous example, but let's say your device is using AI, but it's on device only. It was last updated on world events on January 1st, 2018. Well, something happened between 2018 and now, 2024, that was pretty major, and that was a massive pandemic, big old disaster, a big world-shaping event, COVID-19. I know we all hate to say it, but it happened. This AI doesn't know anything about it. If you asked it, tell me about the latest pandemic, it might mention, I would assume it would mention the Spanish flu, which was like years and years and years and years ago. So think about that, right? Where if it's not being trained and it doesn't have access to the internet, not only is that now, dated information, it's actually incorrect depending on the query. Like if you say, yo, what was the latest pandemic? I mean, it was COVID-19. It wasn't the Spanish flu anymore. And also, humans are the query creators, right? Now that's going to sound like, well, obviously, like you're typing things in, but think about this. Language changes a lot. And the youngins, as if you will, are using cap and for reals and all no cap and all kinds of whatever. They're typing that into AI. If your AI hasn't been updated, your AI's gonna be like, what's a no cap? Like, what's a for real though on God or whatever the kids say. I mean, that's a funny example for the sake of comedy, but it's true though. Like as language changes, and more serious language changes than that, of course, our query interpretation will go down if it's only on device, because it'll be like, I don't know what no cap means. Like what does that mean? And yes, I know no cap or whatever came from like the 20s or something. Doesn't matter for the sake of comedy, but my point still stands. Like it's ridiculous, right? It's a ridiculous problem, but it is a problem. And people will be like, yo, this is how I talk, right? Like you don't want to be like, oh, I got to go to my AI, but I got to talk in a certain way. Well, if you got to talk a certain way, you're just using a last generation assistant, right? Pretty well. Like you're just going to like Amazon's voice assistant. I can't say her name because she's in the room, but she like quite literally is like a big conditional statement where you're like, if this, then that, if user says this, then that, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with like interacting with her like that. But once I get used to just talking to ChatGPT and Copilot and all the rest of it, as I get further and further away from the time in which like that was the best, the conditional statement method was the best, it's going to be difficult for me to go back to being like, oh, I can't talk the way I normally would. Okay. Hello, computer. It's going to, you're going back to the, like, at that point, it feels like the Neanderthal age. Like it's ridiculous.
I think to bring it to the web developers out there right now and the developers that are trying to break into the industry, right? Like if you're still listening here and you're like, well, I value my privacy. I can't use off-device AI. I won't use it. I can't use, data on my phone. Like, I just don't think it's possible to be a successful web developer in today's day and age without embracing the cloud and without embracing what it gives you and stuff like that. Like, we need to be able to stay on top of what's going on in the industry. We need to be able to use the latest techniques. We need to be able to use the latest tools. And right now, like AI is a tool, right? That's where it is. That's where it's been for the last year and a half or 2 years since it's become autocomplete in the browser or in your editors and stuff like that. It's a tool. If you refuse to use it, someone else will, and they'll do it better. And they'll be faster and better than you, and you will have troubles beating them to a job if that's your goal. You will have troubles developing that next startup if someone else is doing it with AI and you're not. They're going to do it faster than you because that's just the reality of where it is. Now, we've said it before, it's not something you can fully rely on. It's not there yet. It's not something that can build that app for you. You need to use it as a tool. And if you purposely cripple yourself to not use the best one just because of the privacy issue, it's very difficult for anyone to really give you sympathy for that. It's your prerogative. Like, it's your decision, obviously. Like, it's no one's going to force you to use it. Like, if I was sitting down in an interview and someone's like, well, I won't use Copilot because it affects my privacy or whatever, I'll be like, cool, that's fine. But the developer that I'm interviewing next will. And I don't see Copilot as being an invasion of privacy, personally. So I'm probably going to choose them as a developer if your skills are similar, right? If the skills are similar, that's the reality. So I'd rather someone with the flexibility and open-mindedness to be able to try different things, use different tools, regardless sometimes of maybe laissez-faire to their privacies here and there. But being strict on these things is the part that's difficult for me to fully understand and wrap my head around as a web developer. Now, if you're not a web developer, if you're just, working in the trades, maybe working as someone else in tech, maybe someone that doesn't need to rely on this stuff as much, it's a different story. Like, I can understand in certain situations where you might want to go less on the grid and less cloud and less that and less that. you're still limiting yourself. Like Matt said, you're still limiting yourself. You no longer will have the Library of Alexandria in your pocket for the most part, right? Like you'll have to go to a library to get that. And you're going to limit yourself in different ways. Like, YouTube is a very good resource for doing anything these days, like saving money on plumbing, saving money on car repair, saving money. Like you could do so much with YouTube that if you are like, okay, I'm living off the internet or, I'm only using on-device stuff, you're limiting yourself. But again, that's your choice if you're not a web developer, and if you can get away with it in whatever trade you're working on or wherever job you're working on, that's fine. I think it's completely normal to have that fear of being constantly online, because it does have its negatives for sure. There's no doubt in my mind that having, everything that I have ever done online has some repercussions. But it's different when you're talking about someone trying to break into the web development industry, in my opinion. It would be very difficult to get through that and it's not like it's impossible. You can definitely still do it. But as this technology evolves, you're going to be left behind. You're not willing to use the tool, and the other guy is. It's going to be a challenge for you to keep up, because they're good. They do good work. Like, these AI tools do the job a lot of times. Like, they will save me, 5 times the time, sometimes like 10 times even, when they do it right. And so, like, without that, it's tough.
Like, that's another thing there too, is like, you're worried about the productivity there as like a hiring manager or something. But I mean, just even on a personal note, whether you are a developer or whether you aren't, you're going to be sort of like sucked in by the fact that the experience is better on the other side. Like, the experience currently is better if you are connected, right? And some people will be like, oh, that's the trap, where they want your information, they want you that. And it's like, kind of like, I'll say my take here is like, I'll like answer the question now, like, should our AI data be in the cloud? Like, I'm honestly fine with it. And I've had this conversation with people before, and I don't want to be snooped on, right? If you ask me like straight up, do you want to be snooped on? The answer is no. But like, I'm in tech, like, I'm going to use stuff. I got to use stuff for work, for personal curiosity. Like, I'm going to go use stuff. And for me to say, that's it, I'm like, some people shut JavaScript off on their browsers. And it's like, I'm just not going to do it. Like, I want the best experience. I want things to be nice. I have a friend, actually, sounds off topic, but it isn't. It's AI related. So Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra has that zoom in, take a picture of a moon. And somebody did some sort of analysis. I've never seen it. I was told about it, so don't quote me directly. But apparently when you zoom in, it uses like AI to generate like, an accurate picture of the moon at that time. Do I care about that? Absolutely freaking not. Why? Because when I take a picture in general of something that isn't a moon, and the background's blown out or whatever, how many smartphone photos for the last umpteen years have I had, too much exposure, too much this, too much that? And, things have helped. HDR, a little bit of AI, like a little bit of on-device AI, before AI kind of took off. A little bit of that machine learning is what it used to be called, really helped out. But now it's really good. Like, I'll take a picture and the background is completely blown out, and it'll fix it. Wait a couple seconds and my phone will just fix it. You know what I'm trying to do when I take a picture? I'm trying to take a picture. And if Google's going to like be like, yo, Matt's at the CN Tower, I'd be like, yo, can I have that for free though? Yeah. All right. Like, that's the exchange for me. I don't give a crap. Like, I don't want to pay a nickel every time they correct my photo. And I know it's Samsung and whatever, like, but like, just hypothetically, if it was Google goes, yo, man, like, I need to know that you're at the CN Tower, but I'll fix that photo. I'll be like, yeah, fix the photo then. So that's my thing. Now, obviously I'm not saying to just go on Facebook and be like, this is my sole insurance number. like obviously there's some things that you keep locked down, but those are the things that you intentionally keep locked down. You keep things in password managers, or if you don't trust a password manager that is a cloud-based one, use one that's local. Like, there's things, pick and choose, that I'm very security conscious with. 100%. I'll, choose to be like, you know what, like, I want this to be hard to log into because I don't want people in here. And I know that the impact of someone getting in here is going to be much more of a pain in my ass than actually, then it's going to be more of a pain if someone breaks in here than a little bit of a pain it is for me to log in once or twice when I get a new device. So I'm just going to like have this thing be difficult to log into, and I'm totally fine with that. I have like 3-factor authentication on some things, like whatever, right? And I'm not saying that my security is perfect by any sense of the imagination, but what I am doing is I'm choosing to say, I'm fine with these companies to taking my data here and there. The thing is, though, is I'm aware of it in most cases. The problem is a lot of people aren't aware of it. And so then things get a little wishy-washy. I think people are way more aware now because Apple has that thing where it's like, ask the app not to track or ask it to track. Like me personally, yeah, track my information because I don't want ads about like high heels or whatever. Like I would prefer to have ads for video games, new tech, new laptops, new whatever. And it knows me. And it's like, yeah, like I would prefer to see ads on that type of stuff. I don't need to see ads on high heels. I don't wear them. I don't buy them. That's it. Right. That's the end of that is the end of that. I don't really take a lot of like Hollywood level video. I don't need to see an ad about the latest Hollywood editing software. It's irrelevant to me. And so it's literally just wasting space. Whereas I have clicked on ads where I'm like, hang on, those shirts are on sale. Click. Oh, okay. Buy. There we go. Right. Successful ad. So I'm fine with there being an exchange of information. And so when it comes to AI, I'm more on the side of the cloud AI, like not a weird opinion, like a hybrid opinion. I'm on the side of the cloud AI, right? Where I like having the full wealth of knowledge. I want it to work the best it can, whatever. But for the on-device stuff, there is an added benefit. Obviously, we already named some of them, like having internet connectivity is a pain. In Canada, like there's a lot of spotty mobile network stuff. It's a big pain, even in big metropolises like the GTHA, which is the Greater Toronto Hamilton area. Yes, even in Toronto, there's bad data, bad GPS, whatever, right? There's just problems with our infrastructure here. And I would like for my AI to, at the very least, say, here's my response in brackets. By the way, this is slightly degraded because I'm having trouble reaching the cloud. That's great. Like, I would love that. Okay, great. I still got a response. That's fantastic. Then I'll deal with now I know that it's just slightly like I'm willing to make a compromise when I'm on mobile for sure. I use a Steam Deck. I'll use a Steam Deck. Like I'm aware it's not as powerful as a really, big, powerful gaming machine. So that's my take is like, I'm more on the side of the cloud AI, but I like that they're developing local AI or on-device AI because I do want it to continue to work. One of the key things I think with the UX of AI is that it's always available, or it's available as much as like really physically possible. And that's my take on that, is that I lean toward the cloud, but would like to have a backup, like a redundancy in the on-device. And I would like to say one other thing. I saw somebody talking about this, and I have a couple articles that I used to write this episode, by the way, that I'm going to link, and it might have been in one of those, or it might have just been some random X post. But what's super interesting is some people were talking about how an on-device AI can really actually tailor to you because it's private. It can become like me. So let's think about like, what does that mean? Well, if if it learns how I write emails, how I talk, how I do all this stuff, some people may say that even though it's on device, it's snooping. But there's a benefit here, is that if I'm having trouble, like I get a bad email from a friend or like a bad email from my boss or something, and I'm like, oh my God, like I have to make sure I nail this. Maybe it's a job offer, whatever, right? Like something that has high stakes or something that's bothering me. It would be freaking awesome if I'm stumped and don't know how to write an answer back, to go to my AI to bounce an idea off of it. And it's not just going to write like, hi there, friend who's sick. I hope that you feel better. Like that's super generic. It'll talk like me. Like it'll write a response like me. Here's 6 responses that sound like you. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what? I actually like that. And I go in and I'll take one of those and I'll maybe edit it a bit and then send it. Like I want my AI to help me. That's the whole point. When I come in the house, I don't want to like specifically have like routines set like we have to do now, where it's like, oh, it is 8 p.m. Turn lights off. Like that's so conditional statement. I want it to be like, Matt, you kind of seem tired. Go lay down. Because I keep falling asleep on a couch. And actually right now I'm falling asleep on a camping chair because I ordered a new couch and I got rid of the old one. So I've been falling asleep on a camping chair. Let me tell you, that hurts a lot. Don't sleep in a camping chair. But the point of the matter is, like, I want my AI to help me. Like my AI should be an extension of me. And so like that sounds super cool. And if on-device AI is where like that is going, because you don't want your whole persona uploaded. I agree with that, right? Like there's a limit to my like cloud bias. Yeah, you don't want to know all my intimate details, but if my phone knows all my intimate details, I mean it's in my pocket all the time anyway, so it already does know. That would be super cool. So that's my take. That's my take on it. Is that like privacy, I like whatever, but I want the UX to be better. That's where I'm at. Now we're going to just touch on we're going to talk about the hardware of how, AI fits onto your device. I know that some of you are going to drop off now because you just don't care about hardware. That's why I saved it for the end. So if you don't care, have a good day and check out Magic Mind. If not, then, we're going to go talk about it. So if you really think about it, we have the data center. We already talked about that. There's, servers upon servers upon servers upon servers, and they're powerful, right? They're powerful. They're ready to go. They're being upgraded all the time, updated and maintained and everything else. So it's like, okay, well, I want AI to not be there. I want it to be in my pocket. And that sounds absolutely ridiculous. But we have solutions that are going to help solve this problem. However, they're still kind of in their infancy. So we're going to get into it. So we have hardware, software, and then some model optimization techniques as well. So let's jump into it. First one here under hardware is going to be CPU, or central processing unit. This is obviously sort of the brain of your device. This has been the brain of many, many devices for many, many years. The thing with CPUs, especially in computers and in phones, is that they're generic, meaning they're good at everything, but not great at anything. That's because your phone will do anything from managing connections, detecting roaming, having messages come in, playing a video game. So it has to be good at everything. But because it's good at everything, it's not a master of anything. It's not amazing at anything. So CPU, how does this fall into, on-device AI? Yeah, and I should be clear that this is all for on-device AI stuff. So the CPU is absolutely capable of running AI processes. There's no, doubt about that. It can run AI processes quickly, of course, as well, depending on how good the CPU is. However, if it's a demanding AI process, then the genericness of the CPU will start to show. So how do we complement this? We complement this with a GPU, which is a graphical processing unit, or graphics processing unit, excuse me. Now, if we think about this, a lot of you are going to be like, hey, I'm a gamer, and I think that, isn't a GPU for my gaming PC? What do you mean? Well, there's still GPUs in phones, whether they're integrated into the CPU, into the SoC, system on chip, or whether they're, separate, whatever, it's up to the device manufacturer. However, the whole point of this is that a GPU was originally meant just to process graphics, right? Show some fancy animations on your phone, play video games, those type of things. But GPUs are being used in AI because they're very effective in parallel processing, meaning they're ideal for matrix and vector calculations, which are very common in AI. So a GPU can help speed up AI processes, or more specifically, the processing of those processes and requests right on your device, because your device has a GPU, by handling multiple operations simultaneously. So the GPU is great. And that's why you see NVIDIA's stock going up, or at least it was. Whoever knows what the stock market's going to do, but it went, shooting up because of AI, because NVIDIA is big into the GPU department. And then this is something that Mike mentioned. The next piece of hardware here is an NPU, which is a neural processing unit. It is a special chip for neural network operations. It is optimized for AI-related calculations, performing them fast and efficiently. And this is great, right? Obviously, you want speed, you want efficiency, but you really want efficiency if you're on a battery. And that's what an NPU does, is they'll throw an NPU on your motherboard on your phone, and it's going to help do these calculations fast. So you see them fast, but it's not going to kill your battery super fast, which is super, super important. And then this is a little bit more niche because we've had these for years, but still an honorable mention. ASIC and FPGAs. Always mess that one up. So an ASIC, these are in the same category, is an application-specific integrated circuit, and an FPGA is a field programmable gate array. Now, these are custom-built hardware solutions that can be used in a wide array of uses, including AI. Hopefully, AI can help me with my speech there, apparently. Now, just to give you context, hardware is very fast. When it goes to process something, if it's just an integrated circuit, it's very fast, very, 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 very fast. It doesn't go through, if you think about it, all the software layers of Windows has to talk to the USB port. The USB port reports to this, and that guy talks to this. You don't have any of that. It's just the hardware just goes you apply 5 volts to this pin. Now the LED lights up. You apply 5 volts to this other pin, the LED turns off. It's very, very, very simple and very, very fast. And so these ASICs and these FPGAs are custom designed for use in particular applications, including AI ones. And because they're hardware, they're very, very efficient, very fast, like I said. The thing is, though, is you got to remember, they're soldered onto the board, or they're in a specific IC or whatever, which is an integrated circuit. So they aren't very flexible in what they can do. Now, the flexibility between these two is a little different. So ASICs are, basically not flexible at all. Unless they're designed to have multiple use cases, they're virtually, not flexible. However, FPGAs are a bit more flexible than ASICs because they can be reprogrammed after manufacturing to perform certain functions. Like they could be like, oh, let's change this a little bit so that, this AI task that we're trying to do works a little bit faster. So that's another thing. Now, again, these are like really specific. Just to give like context into this type of stuff, it's like when you have a laptop, a lot of laptops are non-standard. So think of a desktop. A desktop, you have a motherboard, which is in, one of several standard sizes. It has RAM in a standard form factor. It has a CPU in a standard form factor, et cetera. It has slots that GPUs slot into that are in standard form factor. The list goes on. With a laptop, there's some of that, right? Like hard drives plug in, SSDs plug in, M.2 SSDs plug in, those type of things, RAM, etc. But that's not always the case. RAM can be soldered on, right? Maybe your hard drive isn't changeable. Maybe your SSD isn't changeable. And the board itself is designed to be put into a slim form factor, right? So, or maybe a rugged form factor if it's a rugged book. And so therefore, a lot of the circuits and stuff are really proprietary, and it's different per brand, and it's also commonly different per model. So whereas there are standards, of course, like, one laptop that's a slightly different form factor than another may have the same CPU, the board that connects all the different electrical connections in that are going to be, they're going to be different. They're going to be proprietary. And there's going to be little ASICs and FPGAs, thrown into stuff. Like if a construction worker desperately needs it to connect to a ham radio, there might be an ASIC for that on a specific type of rugged book, right? Just for an example. So that's the end of the hardware. That's how the hardware is going to work for on-device AI. And you can already see, like we just listed, 5 things if you included FPGA separately. Like there's a lot of stuff. So what about software? And the software is the machine learning frameworks. So we've heard of TensorFlow, we've heard of PyTorch, those type of things. But TensorFlow has a light version, so TensorFlow Lite, PyTorch Mobile, Core ML. These are examples of popular machine learning libraries that are designed for mobile and edge devices. Now, quick side note, because I haven't said edge throughout this whole episode. An edge device is a computing device, and I got this definition from ChatGPT just to let you know. An edge device is a computing device that operates at the edge of a network, meaning it processes data closer to the source of that data rather than relying on centralized cloud or data center resources. So for example, a digital camera that has on-device AI to recognize faces is an edge device if it cannot connect to the internet. Because there's an AI that's taking in the video or taking in the imagery live, and it's like, that's a face, that's a face, that's a face. But if you notice here, the software is different, right? You're not just using like TensorFlow Pro or whatever. Like you're not using that full version. You're using Lite. You're using PyTorch Mobile, for example, right? Here come the compromises, right? And you could see it right in the software. And my last thing here, I'm just going to run through this because this stuff is a little bit beyond me because I'm not like super whatever. But again, I got all this stuff, a couple articles. You can absolutely dig in more. I'll post those in the show notes. Quantization. So these are model optimization techniques, meaning that, instead of having like the full version of ChatGPT, we're kind of getting her ready for, for mobile. So what are some of the things that we could do to it? Which is, again, quantization. This reduces the precision of computations from floating point to integers, decreasing model size and speeding up the inference while maintaining acceptable accuracy. You see what I mean by this is word soup and why we saved it for the end? This is what Mike and I went to school for. It's something. We also have, again, I'm just going to touch on these. We also have pruning, which is removing redundant or insignificant weights from a neural network, reducing the model size and computational demand without significantly impacting performance. We also have knowledge distillation, which trains a smaller model known as the student to mimic a larger model known as the teacher, resulting in a compact model for mobile, right? That requires less computational power, but still performs well. And when I say mobile, on-device still tracks. Like you can have it on your laptop. You can also have on-device on your desktop too. It's just right now, on-device is, hey, can we get this on a smartphone? That's really the goal right now, at least in my opinion. Model compression reduces the model size by simplifying its structure through techniques like matrix factorization, minimizing complexity, and minimal impact on accuracy. And I'm just going to run through the names of these last ones because I think that like I'm just talking in word soup. And again, I'll include the article that I got these from in the show notes, of course. I'm just going to quickly list these off. Sparse representations, layer fusion, neural architecture search, which is NAS, which of course they took the NAS acronym, which to me is network attached storage. Maybe I'm just a dinosaur now. And hardware aware tuning. optimizing specific characteristics like memory and bandwidth, and it just gets into it, right? So these are all the things that you need to do to get an AI to run at a reasonable level on a device. And I just want to say that, A, this is not going to be easy. It's in its infancy. Like Mike said, it might die if it doesn't pick up. And as a final note, this stuff's got to be cheap, because you ain't going to buy an iPhone AI model if it's like $500 more. You're going to be like, I'll just download the ChatGPT app.
Unless it does $500 more.
Fair. That's fair.
That's the thing. Like, right now you wouldn't buy one, but if they actually perfect this stuff, and let's say that the $500 more model does this, 10 times faster than the other model that's connected to the cloud, the same stuff. Like I said, you're able to talk to it like a person. It's able to perform actions for you on behalf of you, right on device, on-prem kind of thing. Like, yeah, I'd pay $500. Like, that might be ridiculous, but if it can do $500 worth of really cool things on device with these new processors, and they actually progress this tech 5-10 years down the line, that's what they got to be thinking about. That's the thing. Like, I'm hoping that they see this as the long game and they're willing to, put up with this bullshit for the first little bit. But I have my doubts, because I'm seeing a lot of reactionary stuff coming from tech these days, especially with the interest rates and all that, because they can't burn money that they could before. And I can definitely see a world where they're like, oh, it didn't take off in 2 years. We're pivoting away from this. Everything's going to be in the cloud. People will just have to learn to deal with it. And yeah, I hope that's not the case. But again, with everything that you mentioned, Matt, all this stuff, it is word soup. Like, realistically, like, I think you need, for each one of these model optimization techniques, you would need an episode of the podcast to understand the surface level of what they do. That's how crazy complicated they are. And just knowing about them is, I think, a good benefit. That they exist is a good benefit. But the reality is that there's still going to be probably another 50 of these that are needed to take it to the next level.
And you got to be in it. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, we just had an episode, I don't know if it's going to be out right now yet, with Shashi Low. And like, he was mentioning how like going to be differences in processes. So like, if you learn like a generic process of how a company works organizationally, and you go to work with like, you're working with company A, then you go to work company B, there's going to be some proprietary nonsense that they have in their process. Well, you have to be in that company B to know those proprietary processes. You got to be in AI to understand this type of stuff. Big time. Like, you got to be in the hardware stuff. Like, Mike and I used to know a bunch about ICs, integrated circuits, and microcontrollers as well, which are complemented by, it's another world. Like, the hardware world is another world. That's why I saved it for the end. It's crazy. It's chaos, and some people like it, and then that's it. That's just the way it is. But you got to be into it, because, I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as like, man, I moved these bits and they were a byte. Now it's 4 bits. And like, to someone else, it's like, okay, like, what does it do? The compose button loads like 4 seconds faster now. And like, to the hardware guys, like, they're going to be, having a NASA moment. Like, they're going to be freaking out. Everyone's going to be going wild. If you've seen the BlackBerry movie, it's the first BBM message where they send it and then like beeps on the other device because they received it. Everyone's like, oh yeah, hell yeah, like, we did it. Right. And then meanwhile, like, Jim Balsillie walks in and is just like, this is texting. Like, we already have this. Like, no one cares. No one cares about this, kind of thing. But yeah, like, it's a crazy world. The word soup has fried my brain. We've talked a lot about AI. Mike, I just want to, conclude the episode because I gave my opinion. What do you think? Where are you at? I know you seem like a fan of on device, but like, how much your privacy are you going to sacrifice? Where are you landing? Like, should our AI data be in the cloud?
Well, I've already sacrificed all my privacy by doing this podcast. So
what?
I am okay with the. No, it's true though. Like everything's out there. People can probably find anything they want about me at this point. I've given that up. What I want the on-device AI for is the speed of it. Again, not having to hit the cloud, and for other people's privacy. Because I'm hoping maybe someone, like maybe even my daughter, can maintain some of her privacy. The hope is very little because of how society is working today, but it's there. So I still want that for other people. For myself, I don't really care anymore. Like, everything's out there. Every single one of my accounts has already been, breached and, hacked and whatever. Like, all my passwords are on probably in some database, like leaked database. In the US, everyone's social security numbers just got hacked. So like, yeah, there was this crazy leak of social security numbers or SIN, social insurance numbers, I guess. I think social security is ours, SSN is ours, and SIN is, I can't remember which one is which. It's a bad number to get hacked. Identifier, tax identifier. I have given up on privacy for myself. I hope that there's privacy for the future. I have high hopes in on-device AI. I am not using it today for many things, but I think giving another 5 to 10 years, I think it's going to be a pretty big thing.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And what's funny is I was going to throw it in there, but I didn't want to interrupt you. Mike has been pwned. And if you don't know what that is, there's like a site you can go to and check if your like passwords are leaked and stuff. Mike, and it's called like, have I been pwned, I think. And Mike's been pwned. I mean, I feel like a early 2000s gamer saying pwned again, but anyway, I think that's it. Unless you have anything else to add, Mike. I'm going to go before my head blows up. But before we do that, remember to check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/HTML. All the things if you want to give, I almost said give us your money. Yo, give us your money at patreon.com. No, if you want to support the show, want to support episodes like this, patreon.com/HTML. All the things. Many thanks to our $3 tier patrons. Tim from the Web Hacker on thewebhacker.com. Jason from Geek Life Radio via geekliferadio.com. Garrett Segal. Level Up Financial Planning via www.levelupfinancialplanning.com. Joshua via silvio.us. And Magnus from YesWeb via yesweb.se. And last but not least, we'd like to give a shout out to Michael LaRocca, contributing author on HTMLallthethings.com. Michael is the author of Self-Taught, the X Generation blog at selftaughttxg.com. Feel free to leave a comment or review the platform you're listening to this on. Hang on, I should probably mention the two articles. One of them is from Imaginario, which again I will include. And the other one that I got is from a Medium post by Sahin Ahmed, which is a data scientist. Hopefully I said that correctly. Just want to give a verbal shout out as well as on the show notes, just in case you don't go there. So go check those out. And feel free to leave a comment or review on the platform you're listening to this on. I'm an auctioneer now. We're signing off.
You've been listening to HTML All the Things Podcast. Web development, web design, and small business. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we hope you appreciate that we talk to you like human beings. And we hope you had some fun. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon at HTML All the Things. And on Twitter at HTML Everything. Until next time, this is HTML All the Things, signing off.